This useless wife and worthless excuse for a partner. You probably threw yourself in front of that car just to get out of your responsibilities, didn't you? What were you thinking? Honestly, life would be so much better if you weren't around. How long do you plan to stay in the hospital? These were the cruel words my husband Nathan and my mother-in-law Brenda said to me as I lay in a hospital bed, recovering from serious injuries. I've had enough. It's time they take responsibility for everything they put me through. They're about to see just how serious I am. My name is Heather, and I'm 32 years old. I have a 5-year-old daughter with my 35-year-old husband, Nathan. I've been living with my mother-in-law, Brenda, since the day I married Nathan. It's been the 4 of us under one roof ever since my daughter was born. Nathan's salary barely covers our bills, let alone leaves room for savings. That's why I work full-time as well. Even though our daughter Lily goes to preschool, she still needs constant attention and care. Between work and raising a child, my life is a whirlwind of endless tasks. Every night I collapse into bed as if I've been knocked out cold. I wish Nathan would help out around the house even a little bit, but... Hey Heather, my lunch isn't wrapped up. I can't take it like this. What? But I packed your lunch in the container. Can't you just wrap it yourself with a napkin? Mornings are already chaotic enough. When I answered, Nathan slammed his hand on the table in frustration. Don't start with me. Preparing my lunch is your job, Heather. Prepared means it's ready for me to take, wrapped and all. I can't believe that you're already slacking off first thing in the morning. Just wrap it up already. I sighed as I helped Lily get ready for preschool. Why does wrapping a lunch warrant this kind of argument? Just as I was about to tell him to do it himself, another snide voice interrupted, and not Nathan's this time. Heather, you're such an incompetent wife. How could you not even bother to pack your dear husband's lunch in his bag? My son really got the short end of the stick with you. Every morning I cook everyone's breakfast, including a perfect omelet from scratch, and carefully packed Nathan's lunchbox with colorful, homemade dishes, never using frozen foods. And yet, this is the thanks I get. It's just packing up a lunch for crying out loud. Nathan should be doing it himself, but I'm too busy to argue about it. After getting Lily ready for preschool, I turned to hang up the laundry while attempting to reply to Brenda. It's just wrapping a lunch, Brenda. You and Nathan are more than capable of doing it yourselves. I'm not exactly sitting around with nothing to do. At that, both Brenda and Nathan started yelling at me at the same time. That's absurd! Are you seriously expecting your husband to handle kitchen work? Don't you have any respect for my son? You useless wife. I'm the breadwinner here. Have you forgotten that the only reason you and Lily get to live comfortably is because I bust my butt out there working? Even since Lily was born, this is how Nathan and Brenda react to every little thing. While they were busy shouting, either one of them could have wrapped the lunch themselves. Still, I silently set down the laundry and packed up Nathan's lunch. Here you go. Happy now? I should have just done it from the start, right? You're so stubborn, you know that? The only reason you're still my wife after all these years is because I've been so patient with you. With that, Nathan slammed the front door behind him and left for work. He's exactly right, you know. Even though you're such a useless excuse for a wife, Nathan stuck by you because you got pregnant with Lily. You should consider yourself lucky. And you don't show nearly enough gratitude. Why don't you tell him thank you for working so hard to provide for us for a change? While I hurried to finish the endless morning chores, Brenda sat leisurely with her tea, keeping only her mouth busy with complaints. I work full-time too, on top of managing all the housework and childcare. But does she care? Of course not. Still arguing any further would just waste more time. I muttered my rebuttal silently in my head, then told Brenda, we're off, as I grabbed Lily's hand and headed out the door. Thank goodness. It looks like I'll be able to leave work on time again today. I'll pick up Lily, prepare dinner, and get a head start on packing tomorrow's lunch. Even after work, my mind is still crowded with an endless list of tasks. Thinking back, I can hardly remember a moment of true rest over the past 5 years. It wasn't just the demands of work or parenting that wore me down. It was the constant fear of being berated by Nathan or Brenda for any small mistake. Determined not to be late, I hurried out of work and headed straight to Lily's preschool. I picked Lily up and rushed home, knowing more battles awaited me there. Heather, this is too salty, and there aren't nearly enough dishes on the table. Hey Heather, pass me the soy sauce. This is too bland. Why do I have to fix the food while I'm eating? Ugh, you're terrible at cooking. As always, tonight's dinner table was lively for all the wrong reasons. I would have welcomed chatter from Lily, but the noise always came from the adults. Their endless complaints about the seasoning, too salty, too bland, dominated every mealtime conversation. I'm sure Lily had things she wanted to talk about too. If all you do is complain, Nathan, why don't you cook dinner for once? You're home earlier than I am most days, aren't you? Oh, don't be ridiculous. Have you never heard that a man doesn't belong in the kitchen? Come on, Heather, don't be so naive. If anyone at work found out I was doing housework, I'd be a laughingstock. Exactly. You're just trying to shirk your duties by pushing everything onto Nathan. If you want Nathan to succeed in his career, you need to run this household perfectly. It's what all good wives do. I already do everything around here, but sure. I also work full-time, but have never asked Nathan to vacuum even once. To be more accurate, he's never offered to help. In addition, he's refused to help with Lily's care from the moment she was born. He found my late-night feedings so annoying that he moved into a separate bedroom. I've been juggling a full-time work, housework, and parenting all on my own. There have been plenty of times when I've felt completely overwhelmed. If Nathan can't do it, Brenda, can you at least help with dinner? Not only does Brenda refuse to do any housework, but she doesn't contribute a single penny to household expenses. She's perfectly healthy, yet spends her days lounging, watching TV, and hurling complaints at me. But I have a plan. So I dared to ask for help with just one thing: preparing dinner. Unbelievable. Heather, do you even know your place in this family? A daughter-in-law telling her mother-in-law to cook? That's absolutely outrageous. Heather, how far are you going to push it? My mom isn't your maid. As Nathan and Brenda screamed at me in unison, Lily burst into tears, frightened by the chaos. Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. It's okay. I hurried to comfort Lily, but neither Brenda nor Nathan so much as acknowledged her. Nathan simply scowled, finished his dinner, and left his dirty dishes on the table as he stomped into the living room. Nathan used to be so kind when we were dating, and even during my pregnancy. But after Lily was born, it was like he realized I was tied down to this marriage and would never abandon this relationship. And so he slowly began showing his true colors. Now it feels like tormenting me has become his favorite pastime, right alongside Brenda. I felt a wave of helplessness wash over me and the tears began to fall. But I refused to cry in front of Lily. Instead, I forced a smile as we finished dinner, bathed, and got ready for bed. Only once the lights were out did I allow myself to silently sob in the darkness. I needed to sleep, but there was one task I couldn't skip. Every morning was the same. From the moment I woke up until Lily and I left the house, I endured an onslaught of snide remarks from Nathan and Brenda. It was all starting to feel so meaningless. No one was there to help me. No one even acknowledged my hard work. Lost in these negative thoughts, I sat waiting at a red light on my bike. Suddenly, a car making a left turn slammed into me. I was thrown from my bike and lost consciousness. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital room. It seemed they had already run all the necessary tests on me. Thankfully, there was no damage to my brain, but I had broken a major bone in my leg. When they told me I'd need surgery and at least 2 weeks in the hospital, my first thought was, what about the house? What am I going to do? I can't trust Nathan or Brenda to take care of Lily. Panic began to consume me. Just then, the door to my hospital room swung open, and Nathan and Brenda walked in. Oh, look at that. You're fine. All this paperwork just to admit you to the hospital? And for what? You're always so dramatic, Heather. Even as he looked at me covered in bandages, with my leg in a cast, Nathan's expression was the same, disdainful glare as always, accompanied by a heavy sigh. Beside him, Brenda chuckled softly as if this were all some sort of joke. Heather, you're so clumsy. If you were paying attention, you wouldn't have gotten into an accident in the first place. I bet you did it on purpose just to get out of your responsibilities, didn't you? Honestly, I feel bad for the driver who hit you. Poor guy probably didn't see it coming. As I winced from the pain and felt tears welling up, Nathan sighed again, even more dramatically this time. Yeah, poor you. At least you get to sit here whining about how much it hurts. We're the ones stuck dealing with the hospital paperwork and taking on extra work because of you. We're the real victims here. Exactly. Take today, for example. I'm starving, and there's nothing to eat because you didn't even bother to leave any meals prepared. If you're going to get hit by a car, at least make sure dinner is ready first, you useless woman. Honestly, seeing as how useless you are, maybe it's better if you don't come home at all. Life might actually be more comfortable without you around. So how long do they plan on keeping you here? It was clear. Neither of them cared about the fact that I handled every single household responsibility. In fact, they went as far as to blame me for everything, even now. Shocked into silence, I could only watch as Nathan, emboldened by my lack of response, laughed loudly and pointed his phone at me. "Oh look, you actually look like a sick person now, all pale and pathetic. Let me snap a picture for the memories." Nathan took the photo, smirking the whole time before walking out of the room with Brenda in tow. Left alone, I sat there in stunned silence. That was the response to the years I've spent tirelessly managing the house, working, and raising Lily. I finally understood, or maybe I'd always known. I had just been waiting for the right moment to admit it to myself. They were never my family. They were thieves, stealing every ounce of happiness from my life. I wouldn't let this twisted sense of duty keep me shackled anymore. It was time for me to act, for Lily and me to reclaim our happiness. Lying in the hospital bed, my head still heavy from the accident, I forced my mind into overdrive. I began crafting a plan, a way out, a future where Lily and I could finally be free. All those long, painful nights when I kept a journal, recording every insult, every moment of neglect, were finally going to pay off. When I returned home after surgery and rehab, Brenda's sharp, mocking voice was the first thing to greet me. "Heather, all this apologizing you're doing, what a waste of breath. You really are a terrible wife." I carefully placed the crutches I borrowed against the wall, forcing a polite smile as I apologized to Brenda. "I'm sorry, Brenda. I realize what a burden I've been on you. But don't worry, you'll no longer feel that way in no time." Brenda sneered, her voice dripping with condescension, but her words barely registered. I had no energy left to care. While Brenda busied herself with her usual complaints, I quietly moved through the house, gathering the valuables I'd listed during my hospital stay. Every move was calculated and silent. Dragging my still aching leg, I crept between the bedroom and living room, collecting my and Lily's documents, insurance cards, and just enough essentials to fit in a bag. I told Brenda I was heading to pick Lily up from preschool and climbed into a waiting taxi. For the first time in years, I felt a sliver of relief. At preschool, it seemed Lily had shared some details about my hospital stay. Her teachers, understanding the situation, quietly encouraged me to leave my toxic household. I took another taxi, this time with Lily, and sought refuge at my closest friend's home. Though I felt guilty for imposing on her, my friend greeted me with open arms. "Finally," she said, "you've woken up and gotten out of there." For the next 2 weeks, while finalizing the lease on an apartment I'd found online from the hospital, I stayed with her. I owe her more than I could ever express. And just like that, I escaped the hell that was living with Nathan and Brenda. But from the very day I left, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Of course, it was Nathan. His messages were filled with veiled threats, accusing me of being selfish and irresponsible, warning me to pick up the phone if I knew what was good for me. It was clear he wasn't going to let me walk away easily. Finally, I made the decision to pick up his call. "Hello? Heather, where the hell have you been running around this late? What about our dinner? The bath isn't ready and there's a pile of dirty laundry sitting in the hamper." Once again, his only concern wasn't Lily, and it surely wasn't me. It was his own comfort. And for the first time, I truly questioned how I'd managed to live with someone like him for so long. "Lily and I aren't coming back. I want a divorce. And of course, full custody." "Divorce? Who the hell do you think you are to demand a divorce? Have you lost your damn mind after that little hospital stay?" "No, Nathan. If anything, being away from you and Brenda in that hospital brought me back to my senses. If you won't agree to divorce over the phone, I'll be more than happy to discuss it in person." "You've got some nerve, Heather. Divorce is humiliating, and I'm not giving you permission to do something so stupid. Get your butt back here now." "No, Nathan. I'm not coming back. I'll meet you in 2 weeks to discuss the divorce." 2 weeks? What the hell are you stalling for? And what about meals, laundry, cleaning? Who's going to do all that? Of course, that's all you care about. Honestly, I finally see just how shallow you really are. Anyway, don't call me until our meeting in 2 weeks. For the first time, I ended the call on my own terms, leaving no room for him to argue. Even that small act must have been a shocking blow to Nathan's ego. But this was just the beginning. That night, I sat at the dinner table with Lily and my friend, laughing and savoring a meal without tension, rebuilding my strength for the confrontation ahead. The next 2 weeks flew by in a blur. I finalized my new apartment and prepared for a fresh start. Then, on a weekend, when my friend offered to watch Lily, I went alone to face Nathan and Brenda in the house I used to call home. Well, look who decided to crawl back. Our shameless, useless little Heather. Heather! You have no idea how furious I am right now. You abandoned your duties as a wife and took my daughter on some 2-week joyride. Do you think I'll ever forgive that? Right from the start, Brenda and Nathan were their usual arrogant selves. I had braced myself, but it still struck me how deeply wrong they both were. What shocked me more was the state of the house. The kitchen was a disaster. Dishes and utensils piled high, food scraps strewn everywhere. The living room and hallways were littered with Nathan's and Brenda's discarded clothes, unopened mail, and delivery boxes left untouched. Everywhere I looked, there was clutter, chaos, and filth. It was overwhelming. Ugh, the smell, the filth. This place has become a dump. Just until 2 weeks ago, I had poured my heart into keeping this house clean. The shock made me blurt out my thoughts before I could stop myself. And whose fault do you think that is, huh? I don't exactly want to live in this filth, you know. It's all because you abandoned your responsibilities and left. My responsibilities? Keeping this house clean is everyone's responsibility, Brenda. What did you even do before I married into this family? The more I thought about it, the more absurd this whole situation was starting to look. There are 3 adults in this house, and I'm the only one who even knows where the vacuum is. It's the wife's job to keep the house clean. I'm the one busting my butt working to provide for this family. Just so you know, Nathan, I make more money than you do. So much for working to provide. You can only talk like that when you're earning enough to support the family on your own. So who's the one acting high and mighty now? It was the first time I had ever raised my voice and thrown the facts back at them like this. Both Nathan and Brenda stood there, mouths agape, stunned into silence. What kind of nightmare is this? A wife telling her husband to earn more money? Oh, that's unheard of. Bragging about earning more than your husband is so tacky, Heather. It doesn't matter how much I make. I'm the man of this house, the breadwinner, and that makes me better than you. If you keep up with this attitude, Lily will grow up to be an insufferable, arrogant woman like you. You better rethink your actions. Everything he said was absolute nonsense. The fact that I had been living with people like this, it was almost unbelievable now that I had resolved to leave. I fixed both Nathan and Brenda with a cold, hard stare. Oh, I'm done being your slave. Now sign these divorce papers. I thrust the divorce papers, already signed on my part, toward Nathan. Nathan's face turned bright red and he erupted in anger. You went as far as to prepare this crap? I'm not signing. Absolutely not. Do you know what people at work would say? It'll ruin my reputation. I'm never signing this. Never! That's your first concern? Your reputation? I'm beyond disgusted. As a husband and a father, I'm completely disappointed in you. If you refuse, I'll take this to court. You'll see. As Nathan and I locked eyes in a heated standoff, the doorbell rang. Who could that be at a time like this? Brenda, irritated, checked the intercom monitor and let out a surprised gasp. Oh, it's Lisa and the other ladies from the neighborhood. Lisa lived next door, a confident, sociable woman in her 40s who didn't tolerate nonsense. Seeing Lisa standing there with a group of neighborhood women clearly threw both Brenda and Nathan off balance. What the hell is this? Nathan was always desperate to maintain a good image in front of others. Forcing a cheerful smile, he swung open the front door with exaggerated charm. Oh, good evening, Lisa. And everyone else, too. What brings y'all here tonight? Sorry to barge in, but we couldn't just sit still without interfering. Everything you're saying is loud and clear from outside. Lisa's sharp tone drew both Brenda and me to the doorway. Nathan glanced back at us, feigning a sheepish shrug as if to say, What can I do? Oh, I see. We must have been a little loud, huh? I'm so sorry, but it's just my wife being her usual difficult self. She's been emotionally unstable lately, and I've been dealing with her constant yelling every day. I'm sure she's been a bother to all of you, too." Before I could say anything, Lisa cut him off with a loud, deliberate click of her tongue. "The ones who need to stop are you two, not Heather." Lisa's words left Nathan and Brenda frozen, their heads tilting in disbelief. "We're the problem? What have my mother and I ever done to you?" Nathan, still trying to save face, stammered out a response. Lisa shot him a derisive laugh before sweeping her gaze over the mess visible just beyond the door. "What have you done? Oh, let me count the ways. For starters, how about cleaning up this pigsty? Why can't you even manage to take your trash out to the curb on time?" Nathan's bravado crumbled instantly, his confidence replaced by flustered panic. Piled up outside was a mountain of garbage. An almost impressive amount considering it had only been 2 weeks. It was probably all takeout containers and empty plastic bottles since neither of them cooked, but to the neighbors it must have been an eyesore, and it certainly reeked. "It's all because Heather hasn't been doing her chores. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. Heather, get over here and apologize to everyone." "Oh, Heather hasn't been neglecting the house. She left with her daughter." Before I could respond, Lisa shut Nathan down again. "Wait, Lisa, I don't think you understand what's going on. Heather didn't leave. My son is not pathetic enough to let his wife walk out on him." "Oh, give me a break. It's obvious. Everyone in the neighborhood knows that Heather and her daughter left." Hearing Lisa's words, I felt tears threatening to spill over. All this time, I thought no one noticed me, but the neighbors had been quietly watching, aware of everything I'd endured. "If you take this to divorce court, Heather, we'd be more than happy to testify on your behalf." Lisa's declaration left Nathan and Brenda visibly pale, their previous arrogance evaporating in an instant. "Why are you even getting involved in this? This has nothing to do with you." "I'd say we're more than involved by now. Nathan, we've been hearing your shouting matches every single day. We know exactly how you've been treating Heather. Frankly, it's no surprise she left." "That's ridiculous. Heather's just blowing everything out of proportion." "Out of proportion, you say? Then how do you explain all those insults we've heard you hurl at her? We've even heard you screaming at your granddaughter, making her cry. Is that Heather's fault too?" Lisa's relentless questioning left Brenda speechless, while Nathan turned his frantic, desperate glare toward me. "Heather, did you go running to these people, filling their heads with lies?" "No, Nathan, I didn't have to say anything. It seems like your actions already told them everything they needed to know." "Exactly. You've shown us plenty of your ugliness all on your own." Nathan stood frozen, his fists clenched, visibly trembling with frustration and humiliation. "But my son has worked so hard for this family. Heather leaving us is completely unreasonable." "What's more unreasonable is your behavior, Brenda. Heather works just as much as Nathan does, yet who was the one who saddled with all the housework and childcare? And as for you, the mother-in-law, you've done nothing but complain while contributing absolutely nothing." Brenda's face flushed bright red as she opened her mouth to argue, but Lisa didn't give her the chance. "Heather, we'll prove that you've done nothing wrong. If you need evidence of how these people have mistreated you, we'll gladly help." Tears welled up in my eyes as I turned to Lisa, my hands trembling. Thank you so much." Lisa's words felt like a lifeline, and for the first time in years, I cried tears of relief. "Hey, Heather, don't think crying is going to make me agree to this divorce. How selfish can you be, trying to destroy this family?" "Family? To me, this house was nothing but a prison. Both Lily and I have had every ounce of happiness stolen by you and Brenda. Oh, I've had enough. I won't let you control our lives anymore." My words struck them silent, their eyes wide with shock. It was Lisa who finally broke the silence. "So Brenda, Nathan, what's it going to be? If you keep making a scene, we'll gladly testify to everything we've witnessed in court." At Lisa's warning, Nathan began to tremble uncontrollably, and Brenda lowered her head, no longer able to meet anyone's gaze. Wait a second. Please, let's not take this to court. I just wanted to protect my family." "Protect your family? Really? Where in all this have you been protecting us? You've done nothing but hurl insults at Lily and me, refused to lift a finger for housework or childcare, and made everything harder instead of helping. If that's your idea of protecting your family, then your definition of family is truly disgusting." Nathan stood there, his mouth opening and closing like a fish, unable to muster a response to my cutting words. "But we didn't mean any harm." "Oh, so as long as there's no ill intent, that makes it okay?" "We didn't mean any harm" is the most convenient excuse in the world. Lisa's sharp rebuke silenced Brenda, who bit her lip and looked away. Nathan seemed to be searching for something to say, but his eyes betrayed his fear. "Heather, please, don't do this to me. Don't make me go through this." "Go through what? You think this is enough for you to understand the humiliation and suffering I endured for 5 years? If this is all you have to face, then consider yourself lucky." As I watched the color drain from Nathan's face, I felt a cold resolve rise to the surface, something that had been buried deep inside me for far too long. It wasn't vengeance or hatred. It was simply the determination to protect myself and my daughter. "Sign the divorce papers. If you do, I won't pursue this any further." My words left Nathan no choice. His trembling hands reached for the divorce papers, and without lifting his eyes, he signed them. "Nathan! What are you doing?" "It's over, Mom. I can't fight this anymore." Brenda slumped her shoulders, glaring at me, but for once, she had no words left to say. I picked up the signed divorce papers and let out a slow, steady breath. "Good for you, Heather. You're finally free." Lisa's words brought a small smile to my face, and I bowed my head in gratitude. "Thank you, truly. Thanks to all of you, I can finally start a new life." And so, I officially severed ties with Nathan and began my journey toward a new life. After the move, I opened the door to my new apartment and took a deep breath, the clean, quiet air filling my lungs. It was just a modest 2-bedroom apartment, but it felt filled with peace and the promise of a better future. Lily was thrilled, running through the small space, laughing and exploring her new home. "Mommy, look! My new room is so cute!" "It is, isn't it? You can draw lots of pictures here, and maybe even invite some friends over." Watching Lily's joy brought tears to my eyes. For so long, Lily had been forced to hold back, to endure far more than a child ever should. Seeing me cower under Nathan's and Brenda's abuse, Lily must have felt the need to tiptoe around them too. But now, things were different. Here, Lily could laugh freely, cry freely, just be herself. Starting over wasn't easy, to be honest. Balancing work and raising Lily on my own was harder than I imagined, and I had to pinch pennies to make ends meet. Still, every day I savored the taste of freedom. I woke up each morning to Lily's smile, and on weekends we had picnics at the park or borrowed picture books from the library. We didn't have much money, but our hearts were full. As the days went by, I began to rediscover myself. I picked up my old hobby of painting and started selling some of my pieces online. To my surprise, more and more people began buying my work, and with each sale, I felt my confidence grow. Lily became my biggest cheerleader. "Mommy, your paintings are the most beautiful in the whole world." Her words were all the encouragement I needed to keep pushing forward. Nathan did send child support payments, but only the bare minimum required by law. Still, I realized we could stand on our own, even without his help. As for Nathan and Brenda, I occasionally heard updates through the neighborhood grapevine. Apparently, they were now living in a cramped apartment, constantly bickering and resenting each other. Brenda had taken up part-time work, but her inflated ego made her a nightmare at the workplace. Nathan, meanwhile, had less stress get the better of him at work, leading to a demotion and a transfer to a distant branch. To be honest, hearing about their misfortune stirred no emotion in me. Their lives were no longer my concern. Now, all I cared about was the future. At our little dining table, laughter filled the air as Lily and I shared our days with each other. After 5 years of hardship, we had finally found happiness. From now on, we would continue walking this new path, hand in hand, supporting each other every step of the way.